This is an example of short-term equity investments, multiple years, so you can see what happens to the unrealized holding gains and losses over multiple years. We're going to do this problem twice. First, for trading securities, where you know the unrealized holding gains and losses goes to the income statement, and then once again for available for sale securities, and you know that the unrealized holding gains and losses goes to a shareholder's equity account and other comprehensive income instead of the income statement, and how that all gets complicated because you have actual gains and losses on the sale of AFS, as well as these unrealized gains and losses. So let's get started. So in the first year, which is 2017, we purchased 20 shares of ZZZ for $8 a share. And then as of the end day, last day of the year, ZZZ's market price is $10 a share. So we'll need to mark it up to market. Then the following year, we sell 10 shares of ZZZ for $9. And then at the end of the year, the fair value is $12. Then in the last year, or 2019, the remaining ZZZ shares are sold for $14 each. So we're going to see how this works first for trading securities. For in trading securities, in the first year, when we buy ZZZ, 20 shares at $8, we debit trading securities and credit cash. So it's right here. Then we know that we have to get to the year-end value of $10, so we have to mark it up to market. 20 shares, 8 minus from 10 is $2 a share. So at year-end, we're going to debit trading securities and credit unrealized holding gains on the income statement. So that income statement will show a gain from ZZZ in 2014 of $40. Sun goes down, sun comes up. It is now 2015, and in 2015 we sell 10 of the shares at $9 a share. So when we make that sale, we're going to debit cash for 10 shares at $9. We're going to say, oh, what is our basis in our ZZZ stock? It's $10 a share, so we're going to credit trading shares, 10 shares at basis of $10 a share or $100. And we have a loss of 10, because that's the difference between what we sold it for and the fair value at the end of the previous year. Sun comes up and goes down and comes up and goes down, and we are now at the end of 2015, and the stock market says $12 for ZZZ. Well, last year it was 10, so we'll need to write up the remaining 10 shares that weren't sold to $12 a share. So at year end, we're going to debit trading securities, 10 remaining shares, $2 a share, moving it from 10 to $12 basis, and credit unrealized holding gain of $20. Again, that unrealized holding gain will show up on the income statement because it's a trading security. In the final year, or 2016, we are going to sell the remaining 10 shares at $14. So we're going to debit cash, 10 shares times $14. The basis we have in our trading securities is 10 shares at $12, the fair value at the end of the previous year. And we can see that we need a credit to make this balance, so we're going to have an actual gain of $20 in 2016. So that's how you handle trading securities. Pretty straightforward. You can track your basis pretty easily. But now, let's take a look at available for sale. Same facts. So we start off, and I'm going to change my color so we can make it decadent. I'll make it green. So when we start off, we buy our 20 shares at $8, so we debit AFS, $160, credit cash, $160. At year end, we need to write it up to the fair market value at the end of the year, which is $10. So 8 versus 10 is a $2 write-up. So we'll debit AFS, 20 shares, times $2. Credit unrealized holding gain, shareholders' equity of 40. So this is where we get our unrealized holding gain of 20 shares at $2. That is at the end of 2014. So that stays there and is not closed in that shareholders' equity account. Well, then we get around to the next year when we have a sale, and we sell 10 shares at $9. So here's my sale. Now what's interesting about the sale, and pay good attention here, is we sold 10 shares at $9. So I understand where this number comes from. And I understand that the value in the AFS account at the end of the year was a $10 valuation. So I understand where this number comes from. We sold 10 shares valued at $10. But what we have to do is also get rid of the unrealized holding gain that's associated with these 10 shares that we're selling. So we have to back out the $2 for those 10 shares that we previously parked in shareholders' equity. And that's where this comes from. And then we're going to find out what the gain is. And it's pretty easy to find the gain. In fact, usually I'll find the gain first, because I'll say, okay, for AFS, what did you buy it for? I bought this stock at $8. What am I selling it for? I'm selling it for $9. So my gain is going to be the difference between the actual what I bought it for and the actual what I sold it for. And so that's why the gain is 10 shares at $1, or the difference between $8 and $9. So that's how you handle the sale. But we still have shares. So at the end of the year, we have 10 remaining shares. The fair value at the end of the second year is $12. So I know that I have to write up the remaining 10 shares to for the $12 versus $10, and so I'm going to make another entry for 10 shares times $2, or the difference between 10 and 12. And so that's the year-end entry where I debit AFS, credit unrealized holding gain, shareholders' equity for 20. The difference between last year's ending balance of 10 and this year's ending balance of 12. Then we get around to having the final sale, and I understand that I'm selling 10 shares at $14 a share. I understand that. I understand I'm selling 10 shares that are on the books at $12, what I wrote them up to at the end of the year. I also know I have to get rid of anything that's in my unrealized holding gain or loss she account. So I'm going to be debiting it. And then The easiest part is, what's the real gain? Well, the real gain is I bought it at 8, I sold it at 14, there are 10 shares, so 14 minus 8 means I had a $6 gain per share for 10 shares, so my gain is $60. Sometimes I find the gain first as well as the cash and getting the AFS off the books, and then can kind of figure out how to get rid of SHE, unrealized holding gain and loss. So I hope this helps as how you can see things over the years for trading securities and available for sale securities. And this is a recap, so you can see that whether you treat them as trading securities or available for sale securities, they get the same results overall. It's just which year are you recognizing on the income statement the income or the loss.